The WNBA was on fire. Ratings were up, fans were locked in, and Caitlin Clark was at the center of it all. But when she went down, everything changed. Just as the Fever found their rhythm again, Clark got smacked in the face mid-game, and what followed wasn't just a comeback, it was domination. This isn't just a story about a foul, it's about how Clark turned pain into power and completely took over. The league was heating up until Caitlin went down. The WNBA had never looked stronger. Ratings were climbing, the headlines were non-stop, and for the first time in years, the spotlight felt deserved, not borrowed. But there was one name that anchored that rise: Caitlin Clark. Her every move drew cameras, fans, and energy. Then, just like that, she was gone. A sudden injury pulled her out, and so did the momentum. The Indiana Fever looked lost without her. Spacing disappeared, passing tightened. The team that had started to find its identity unraveled. One win in several games. Each outing felt more awkward than the last. It wasn't just missing a player, it was like the entire engine had stalled. And just when the league started wondering if the magic had worn off, Clark returned. There were no fireworks, no grand declarations, just a player checking back in. But her presence lit the building up. Fans returned, cameras zoomed in, and the buzz started creeping back in. She was on a minutes restriction, sure, but she brought something deeper than points: rhythm, belief, and identity. The Fever started breathing again. But no one expected what would happen next. Because just as the energy returned, so did the heat, and not in a good way. She took a hit to the face and everything changed. Indiana was finally finding its footing again. Clark was back in motion, running the offense with the kind of pace and precision that had made the Fever exciting. But the Liberty weren't just any opponent. They came with a chip on their shoulder. Physical, relentless, and unafraid to press. As the Fever tried to find flow, the pressure mounted. Possessions got chippy, screens were harder, elbows sharper, and then, in the middle of traffic, Caitlin Clark got hit square in the face. The arena gasped. For a moment, everything stopped. The refs didn't call it flagrant, no technical, just a foul. But for Clark, it was more than that. This was a line being crossed. Her face said it all. She was stunned, but not shaken. No theatrics, no confrontation, just a pause, and then something in her shifted. Fans could feel it, the fire. The one she's known for ignited right then. What followed wasn't a comeback. It was a statement. One that said, if you're gonna hit me, you better brace yourself for what's next. Because from that moment on, Caitlin Clark didn't just return, she took control, possession by possession. And the Liberty were about to learn exactly who they were dealing with. Clark didn't flinch, she responded with fire. The very next play wasn't just basketball, it was personal. Clark, now locked in, handled the ball with a calmness that looked almost eerie. She took her time, reading the defense like a chessboard, then struck. A sharp behind-the-back dribble froze her defender, and she nailed a mid-range jumper like she'd been waiting her whole life for that exact shot. The crowd erupted, not just in support, but in awe. You could feel the momentum shift, and Clark was the one shifting it. The Liberty, suddenly on their heels, tried to regroup, but Clark wasn't done. With the defense collapsing on her again, she executed the same behind-the-back motion, but this time dished it off to Aaliyah Boston on the short roll. Boston made the extra pass to the corner, and Lexi Hull drilled a clean three. It was poetry in motion. This wasn't hero ball. It was dominance through control. Clark wasn't trying to score every time. She was bending the defense, forcing them to guess and punishing them for guessing wrong. One possession later, she pulled up from deep and hit nothing but net. She didn't scream, she didn't pose, she just ran back, locked in. The Liberty were officially on notice. The crowd held its breath, then she erupted. Everything felt different now. The Liberty had been in control early, dictating tempo and throwing punches. But after that hit, it was like Caitlin Clark flipped a switch. The crowd sensed it too. There was tension in the air, the kind that comes right before something wild happens. And then it did. After a Fever stop, Clark pushed the ball up the floor with purpose, no hesitation, no setup. She pulled up from well beyond the arc in transition and let it fly. Elash. The roar was deafening. You could feel the electricity bounce off the walls. But Clark wasn't done. Not even close. Next possession, same story. She sized up her defender, danced behind the three-point line, and hit another one right in their face. That made it 14 points in the quarter. The Liberty tried to answer, but their rhythm was fading fast. Clark was bending time, pushing pace when she wanted, slowing it when they blinked. She wasn't just scoring, she was controlling the emotional pulse of the game. And while the Liberty were still technically ahead on the scoreboard, everyone watching knew what was really happening. Clark had taken over, and the Liberty, for the first time all night, looked unsure of what to do next. Clark flipped the score, and the energy shifted instantly. With the game teetering on a knife's edge, Caitlin Clark did what she does best: changed the entire mood of the arena in one play. Indiana forced a turnover, and in transition, Clark drifted to the wing. The defense lost track of her for just a second. That's all she needed. She caught the pass in rhythm and buried the go-ahead three. The Fever had their first lead of the night, and the building exploded. But Sabrina Ionescu wasn't backing down. On the very next possession, she punished a mismatch in the post with a tough fadeaway. The message was clear. This wasn't going to be a one-sided highlight reel. Yet Indiana kept answering. Kelsey Mitchell found the back door wide open and converted through contact. The bench exploded. Then came Sophie Cunningham, a jolt of chaos in the best way. She intercepted a lazy pass, raced coast to coast, and laid it in. The crowd went wild again. It wasn't just Clark now. It was everyone. But make no mistake, she was still the conductor. The Liberty were scrambling, and every Clark possession felt like a threat. The Fever weren't just back, they were charging, and the Liberty had no clue how to stop the avalanche. A hit to the face sparked something even bigger. Just when the Liberty thought they could keep the pace, the game turned again. Clark was cutting through the lane, fighting through traffic, when Natasha Cloud's arm swung back right into her face. It wasn't a full punch, but it landed flush. The crowd gasped. Clark staggered for a second, visibly shaken. The arena went dead silent, then shifted into full-on fury. This wasn't just another physical game anymore. This felt personal. But Caitlin didn't flinch. No confrontation, no whining to the refs. Instead, she checked her footing, collected the ball, and calmly isolated Cloud on the very next possession. A behind-the-back dribble, one step into space, and bang. Mid-range jumper, pure. The response was cold-blooded. On the next trip down, she used the same move, this time not to score, but to find Boston in the short roll. Boston kicked it to the corner, another three, then another bomb from Clark herself. Deep and effortless. Her sixth of the half. She wasn't just hitting shots anymore, she was controlling everything. Every Liberty mistake was punished, every overhelp exposed. This wasn't just a comeback, it was domination in real time. And everyone watching knew you don't smack Caitlin Clark in the face and expect to get away with it. A second half storm, no one could stop. If New York had any hope of stopping the storm, they needed to find it after halftime. And Natasha Cloud tried. She spun her way into a bucket immediately, then Ionescu buried a three and hit 22 points. But Indiana wasn't blinking. Mitchell slashed through traffic to kill the run. Then Clark pushed in transition, found Lexi Hull wide open, bang. Next play, Boston faked a pass and drove hard to the rim. The Fever were humming again. Then came the backbreaker. Clark, moving at full speed, beat her defender with a sharp burst and scooped in a smooth layup. Next play, her defender went under the screen. Big mistake. Clark stopped on a dime and drilled her seventh three-pointer. She now had 30 points, and Indiana was on a 17-0 run. Stewart finally got one to fall, but even then, Indiana wasn't letting up. Colson buried a three. Ionescu tried to answer, but the Fever defense closed in. Johannes hit a shot, and Ionescu added another late three, but by the end of the third, Indiana still led by 9. The Liberty had thrown their best punches, but Caitlin Clark was still standing, and the fourth quarter was hers to finish. Every possession was a statement. The final quarter began with urgency. Johannes got the Liberty rolling again with a strong drive, but Indiana's answer was surgical. They ran their offense through Boston at the high post, and when the double came, she swung it to Colson. Another clean three. Mitchell knocked one down from the corner, then Boston bullied her way inside, scored through contact, and hit the free throw. The lead ballooned. And just when you thought Clark might coast the rest of the way, she came alive again. She attacked Stewart off the dribble, got to the rim, and nearly scored. Boston cleaned it up for her. Moments later, Clark delivered another perfect pass, this time to Hall, cutting baseline. Another bucket. The Liberty were unraveling. The Fever, on the other hand, were thriving. Clark drew two defenders and still found Mitchell in the corner. Money. Then Boston found Cunningham wide open. Net. The Fever were up by 16. Sabrina tried to keep New York alive, hitting another jumper, finishing with over 30 points herself. But it didn't matter. The lead held. The buzzer sounded. Final score 102-88. The Indiana Fever had crossed the 100-point mark for the first time this season, and standing at the center of it all, Caitlin Clark. She took the hit and took over the entire game. Clark finished with 32 points, 9 assists, and 7 threes. But the numbers don't tell the full story. This wasn't just about stats. It was about what happened after the elbow, after the silence, after she got smacked in the face and the entire gym held its breath. She didn't retaliate, she didn't panic. She responded the only way she knows how, by going nuclear on the court. Her performance didn't just reignite her team, it reignited the entire arena, the league, the fans watching everywhere. This game wasn't a fluke, it wasn't a highlight reel, it was a message. Caitlin Clark isn't here to just participate in the WNBA. He's here to take it over. And now the whole world knows.